When it comes to lubrication, everything matters. There's really no area that is more important than another one, but perhaps the most challenging area to lubricate, at least when you're new, is the escapement. So, based on my experience teaching watch repair to folks just like you, I'm going to show you a proven method and explain why I think it'll be the best for you. Now, in a basic mechanical watch movement, big chunks of power are lost in two main areas of the movement. The first area is the powertrain. As the torque is applied to the train of wheels, about 2/3 of the original energy leaving the barrel is used up before it even gets to the escapement. The second area that consumes a lot of energy is the escapement itself. There are multiple things happening inside the escapement that burn up energy, but it's the friction between the escape wheel teeth sliding across the pallet stones that uses the most energy. And that's why it's so important to get this lubrication correct. When it comes to lubricating the escapement, it's probably no big surprise that every manufacturer recommends 9415 on the pallet stones. I also know that some of you are wondering if there are any substitutes for 9415. And the answer is just no, there's not. These recommendations come from extensive testing that shows that because of the speed at which the escape wheel is rotating, 9415 maintains an oil film on the pallet and escape wheel teeth far longer than any other regular oil would. Historically, Mobius 941 was used on all low beat watches, like anything 18,000 beats per hour or less. But today, 9415 is used pretty much universally, even on lower beat movements. So you really don't need to have two different lubricants anymore. Manufacturers also advise today in treating the pallet fork and escape wheel with Epilam. What Epilam basically does is it creates a high surface tension coating on the parts, and it's used to keep the lubricants from spreading out. Basically, what it does is it keeps them located where you want them to be, and it repels them and keeps them from spreading out. Today, I like to use Episurf-Neo, which I prefer because unlike some of the older versions of Epilame that needed to be dried with heat, Episurf can be air dried in only about a minute or so. Now, to apply Epilame, you need some sort of Epilame bottle. This is just a small bottle with a screen cup at the top to hold the parts. And usually you'll see them and they're going to be shaped somewhat like an hourglass. But there are many different ones on the market today. So just pick up one that's in your budget. Another thing that comes in very handy is an eyedropper. I like to use these little brown bottles. You will also need a fine-tipped oiler like the Bergeron Black, but really you can use any small tip oiler that you want. What I like to do is spend a little time reshaping and reducing the size of the tip on my oilers. To do this, you can use anything from a buffing file, diamond lapping paper, or even 2000 grit sandpaper. I find the easiest way to do this is with the tip pointing away from me, just lightly pulling the oiler towards me using very gentle pressure. It's also necessary to have some pith wood to clean the oiler tip. You want to make sure you're not introducing any type of grit into the grease, and whatever you do, don't use Rodico on your oilers as it's going to leave a film behind on the steel, which is going to contaminate the grease. Now, if you're new, in theory, you don't have to use an Epilame product. But if you want to maximize your lubrication efficiency and the longevity of the work you're doing, here is how I would do it. Now, before you start, You have to make sure that your parts are spotless, right? Pay close attention to the pallet stones specifically. There can't be any leftover dried lubricants, no dust, and no grit on the pallet stones themselves. If there is, you're going to disturb the impulse to the balance wheel and it's going to cause wear. You would normally do this procedure right after your final cleaning before you do your assembly. Now I'm going to start by dropping the escape wheel in the jar and turning it upside down and letting it soak for just 30 seconds. Next, I'm just going to pull up a little bit of the Episurf into the eyedropper and just dip each pallet stone in that drop. And then onto the paper to dry for a minute. Now, just in case you're wondering why you don't dip the entire pallet fork, it's because if you have dried epilam inside the actual pallet fork itself, the constant impact of the impulse jewel hitting it is going to turn it into a powder, which is going to end up contaminating the impulse jewel, which will cause what's known as stiction. And that's going to interfere with the transfer of power to your balance wheel. Now that the parts are treated, when I get to that part of the assembly, I can just install the escape wheel and the pallet fork, and they're all good to go. Then you're just going to add a little bit of wine to the barrel. You're going to install the balance wheel, and now we're going to let it run for about 10 or 15 minutes. What that is going to do is it's going to remove a stripe of epilam from the pallet stone where the escape wheel tooth is running across it. And it's going to remove the epilam from the edge of the escape wheel tooth. So now that we have the two areas cleaned of epilam, we can apply the 9415. When we talk about lubricating an escapement, what we're really talking about is lubricating the 15 escape wheel teeth and the two pallet stones basically at the same time. Now, there are several ways you can do this, but no matter which method you use, the goal is always going to be the same. The lubricant should only be on the impulse face of the escape wheel tooth. There should be a tiny bit on the locking face of the jewel near the corner, and you should have a clean stripe across the pallet stone. There should not be any grease gobbed on top of the tooth or the top of the pallet stone or anywhere else on the pallet fork itself. If you see that you've applied too much grease, what you really have to do is re-clean the escape wheel and pallet fork again and start over, because the epilam is going to cause the grease to travel and it's going to end up contaminating your movement. Remember, you want to see a clean stripe of grease across the pallet stone where the tooth passes across it. And lastly, when the tooth is sitting on the impulse face of the stone, right before it drops off, you want to see a wedge of grease between the tooth and the stone that is equal to between 2/3 to 3/4 of the length of the escape wheel tooth. Now, this is something that you just judge visually because there's really no way to measure it. So in order to do this, you have to be able to see it. And that means having good magnification. Static methods of lubrication involve applying the grease to the pallet stone or the teeth before the pallet fork is installed. Now, these methods have proven to be pretty hard to do so that the grease doesn't get wiped off or transferred to any other parts of the movement during your assembly. And these static methods are really not something that I would suggest that you even try if you're brand new. A more efficient approach would be to do the lubrication with the pallet fork installed, but leaving the balance wheel out. So that way you can manipulate the pallet fork back and forth to help distribute the grease. What I recommend is what's known as the dynamic method. And this is especially true when you're new. And we do this by lubricating every other tooth of the escape wheel. This method will give you the most control, and for what it's worth, it's much easier to do with a microscope, but you can obviously do it with a 10 times loop. It's just a little more challenging. With the pallet fork in place and a slight amount of wind to the mainspring, we're just going to get a tiny bit of grease on our oiler, and we're going to touch the escape wheel tooth right on the edge with the grease. I can't stress how small this amount should be. It should barely be visible under high magnification. And you definitely don't want to see a big glob on the end of the tooth. Now, as we apply the grease, we're going to advance the pallet fork by 2 teeth, and we're going to repeat this process until 7 teeth have been lubricated. The key here is patience. Remember, you're not under a deadline, so take as long as you need to be precise in your lubrication. It really does matter. Now, when it comes to which side of the pallets to lubricate, the entry or the exit side, watchmaking schools always teach to lubricate from the exit side instead of the entry side. Now, why is this? The escape wheel tooth goes across each pallet stone the same way, right? I mean, it's going across at the same angle, so that really couldn't be the issue. Well, think about it like this. When you're looking at the pallet from this view, this is the entry side and this is the exit side. So the first reason is that the exit side is usually much easier to get to. But the main reason is for consistency. If you lubricate from both sides, you're going to end up over lubricating, and that's really the last thing you want to do, because over lubrication of the pallets is an amplitude killer. When you apply grease to the exit side, that tooth is going to carry enough grease around so that when it passes over the entry stone, it will not only deposit grease on the entry stone, but it's going to carry more grease around to the exit side as well. That's why after we lubricate the first 7 teeth, we're going to work the pallet fork back and forth so that the escape wheel goes around about 4 times. And what that does is it makes sure that the oil has been distributed evenly on both pallets. The longer the escapement runs, the better the distribution is going to be on both stones. Okay, so let's cycle the pallet fork so that the escape wheel makes 4 complete revolutions, and then we're going to check for our grease wedge. Now, this wedge of grease that I've been talking about is in between the escape wheel tooth and the pallet stone. The grease wedge should be measured when the leading edge of the escape wheel tooth, which is called the locking corner, is around 3/4 of the way across the pallet stone. What we're looking for here is that the wedge equals between 2/3 and 3/4 of the escape tooth's length. If you don't see that wedge, then we know that we need to add a little bit more grease. It's always better to start off under lubricated than being over lubricated, because you can always add a little bit more. When you're new, you need to verify that what you're doing is correct, because the chances are when you first start doing this, it's not going to be perfect. This takes practice. And the more you practice, it allows you to transfer the information we're talking about from your brain to your hands so that you can see it and you can get a feel for it. So spend a little time to verify what you're doing is actually correct. Now, after it's been running for 24 hours, verify that that oil wedge you see is still at about 2/3 to 3/4 of the tooth length, and hasn't gotten any bigger, and that there is not grease gobbed all over the place. Sometimes when you check the wedge right after you've applied the oil, it's going to look okay, but after it's been running for 24 hours and the oil gets distributed even more, that oil wedge gets bigger as the oil spreads to its natural positions. Take the pallet fork out and check your oil stripe on the pallet stone itself. It should be covering about 50 to 60% of the surface of the impulse face. If the entire impulse face is covered with grease, you got to do it again. Also, look at the locking face of the pallet stone. This is where the escape wheel first lands on the tooth, and there should be a small trace of oil present with nothing visible on the sides of the stone or anywhere else on the pallet fork itself. Now, if the stripe on the pallet jewel looks to be a little heavy, what you can do is re-clean the pallet stones, reinstall the pallet fork, and let it run for another 24 hours. In many cases, the excess oil on the teeth will lubricate the stones again, and it will be exactly what we need. Or even if it's a little light, we can try relubricating it again. And of course, we can verify this by looking at the oil wedge again after 24 hours. Remember that over lubrication is a bigger problem than under lubrication. So when in doubt, use a little less. Another problem that people seem to be having is when they buy watch hands and they don't fit on the movement that they're supposed to. In most cases, they're too small. And when people try to force them on, it leads to all sorts of problems. So in next week's video, I'm going to show you how to not only enlarge the hour and minute hands, but I'm going to spend most of the time talking about enlarging the tubes on those very small second hands, because there's so much more to learn. I hope to see you in that next video.